guys, sorry to interrupt. I was just editing the video and I realized that I made a lot of mistakes and had a lot of brain farts, I guess you could call it. And I just thought it would be easier to film a clip explaining rather than trying to add text and everything to every single spot that I made a mistake in. Basically, I was at the start of a pretty full-on head cold when I recorded it, and it made me have a fibro flare in a way. It was sort of like the start of a sickness, start of a fibro flare, and basically so my fibromyalgia affects a lot of my brain capabilities, I guess you could say. I get brain fog a lot, and I have a lot of short-term memory loss and forget the words and stumble over words and stuff like that all the time, and it can make me come across as really stupid, which I don't really like, but there's not a lot I can do about it. But yeah, basically I can be thinking of what I'm wanting to say and everything, and go to say the words and they just either don't come out at all, or they come out all muddled up, or the wrong way of saying something, I guess. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of explain that, especially for people who don't understand what a fibro flare is. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of explain all that, and so that you can kind of have a bit of an understanding of why I sound like I can't speak, because sometimes I can't, honestly. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Broken Bexy. I'm just a girl with a broken body who tries to make a positive difference in other people's lives while trying to make the most of mine. Today I wanted to talk about mental health, and that it's okay to not be okay. There's a lot more awareness and known about mental illness and everything from even when I was younger, and people are more, there's been great strides in making it more known and understand. That's not the right word, but people understand it more now. There's still a long way for it to go, and it is going to take time, and I don't think that it's something that will ever be completely understood, or I don't think there'll ever be a need for it to not be spoken about. I think it's just something that really needs to be spoken about, not taken as something that's looking for attention or anything like that, because it's serious. And if you just think that everything you hear about mental health and everything that comes with it as a scream for attention or whatever, it's just going to do more damage than good. And it can be hard because it can seem like people are doing it for attention, and in a way they might be, but there's deeper reasons behind it than going, oh, I just want someone to look at me, I want somebody to hear me. There's other issues going on in their life that they feel the need to be putting it out there in that way, a need to be heard, a need to be seen, and that in itself makes their mental illness very real and shouldn't be just pushed aside as it being just a cry for attention or attention seeking or anything like that. Um, so I can't remember a time where I didn't have a mental illness. I remember being very young and it wasn't, I don't know how I knew these words or anything like that. I mean, my dad was had his own mental illnesses that he didn't get diagnosed with until that he had lived with his whole entire life. That he didn't get diagnosed with until I was about 11 or 12. So, and I'm certain I was younger than this, so I don't know where I got the words because it wasn't a topic that was talked about, especially in my family. And so I don't know how I knew what it was or anything like that. But I remember saying when I was little, I'm depressed. And because it wasn't a thing that was spoken about or nothing was really known about it or anything like that, my mum said, but you don't know what being depressed is. You don't know what that means. And I came away from it thinking, okay, well, maybe I don't know what it means. Maybe it is in my head. Maybe I'm not. Um, my train of thought went. But I do remember how I felt at that time. And as I've gotten older and experienced more with mental illness, I realized that, yeah, I did know what it meant. And I did feel what I was feeling, and that I was really struggling with things that were going on in my life at the time. And I didn't know what to do with those emotions. And that has been a massive, massive struggle for me my entire life. And it's only been in recent years, like the last year or so, maybe two, where I've come to realize that it needs to be seen in a different perspective. I would always struggle with why I was feeling the emotions I was feeling and why everything seemed to be so horrible and why always the bad things happened to me and the ones I was closest to. And every time we'd seem to get over one horrible, horrible, horrible thing, we'd be faced with another horrible thing. And my emotions were in overdrive. I didn't know how to deal with it or what those emotions meant or why all these horrible things kept happening. And it's taken me quite a long time to come to a different perspective on that and realize that it's not necessarily the case. Yes, our emotions don't know how to react to certain things that are going on. It's a coping mechanism and all of that. But I've come to a really good place lately. And every challenge that I've faced in recent times, and there has been a lot. It's been a really, really tough, I want to say, life, but it, it's been a really tough couple of years in particular. So my change of perspectives came around at a very, very dark point in my life where I made some decisions to change things in my life so that I could keep going, just make it through to the next day and the next day, and taking one day at a time. And then I got to a really good headspace, and then thing after thing after thing kept happening, and I started to struggle again, and started questioning again, like, why do bad things always happen? Why are we always struggling? And it's so easy to fall back into that headspace. It really is. But particularly in the last 6 months to a year, I've started thinking of things as in a different way, where it's every single person on this earth, past, present, or future, will have challenges all throughout their life. And it's not that bad things just keep happening to you or anything like that. Like, yes, bad things might always be happening to you, but it's more so, it's how we grow. When we get faced with things we don't think we can handle, there's only really two options: to give up or to keep fighting through. And you find a way to get through that challenge and you become stronger for it. I can say with 110% certainty that if I had not faced some of the challenges that I have faced, I would not be able to handle the challenges that I am facing now. That I grew so much from each and every single challenge that I had been faced with. And then the next challenge that came along, it was that strength that I'd learned previously that got me through the next thing. And I grew up in a very religious home, and I'm not trying to say that everyone should hold the same beliefs as me or anything like that. But one thing that was always said to us, particularly in hard times, was God will not give you something that you cannot handle. He will not let things happen to you that you cannot handle. So all of the bad things in life that came your way, God would not have let happen if he thought you couldn't handle it. And I always really struggled with this because I found it as, it's like, but why does he keep letting things like this happen in the first place? I don't think I can handle it. So why is he doing this? Why is he giving me this to deal with that he thinks I can handle, but it's so horrible? Why is he letting horrible things happen constantly, especially if we've got our faith? But I've realized that, like I said earlier, it's how we grow as people, as everything. It's how we grow. And even if you're not religious or anything, and I get it, okay, I still feel like it holds some sort of value, that even taking God out of the statement, life will not throw you things that you cannot handle. You don't know how much you can handle. Every time a new challenge comes along, you feel like it's impossible to move forward. But somehow you do. Somehow you make it through and you're a stronger person for it. And I guess basically what my point to all of this is that we are given things in life that are hard to deal with, that are hard to understand, that makes us want to give up so that we can grow, so that we can be stronger. They give us each of these challenges to give us the strength, or to not to give us the strength, but to help us find the strength deep within ourselves that will help us with the next part of our journey. You look at little babies, they can't walk, they can't talk, they can't do anything by themselves. And everything, they don't know what it is, they don't know how to deal with that, but they keep trying until they get through it. And once they master that, something else comes their way. We've literally been tested from the moment we are born, even the moment we're conceived, with challenges to make us stronger, to prepare us for what comes next. So when a baby is learning how to crawl, they get really frustrated and upset because they want to move forward, but they just don't know how to move their arms and legs. They can't get them to move in the way that they want to, and they think it's too tough, and they get frustrated for that because they want to start moving. They can see everyone else moving around them, and they're the only ones who can't, and they can't understand why, so they keep trying. And then once they learn how to move their arms and legs, then they want to start walking. This isn't something they've ever been able to do, but they can see everybody else doing it, and that's something that they want. They know that their lives are going to be easier once they can walk, but it seems impossible. They don't know how it's going to work, and they fall and they hurt themselves. And I swear, when kids are learning to walk, they end up with the most bruises and have the most accidents because they don't know how to do it, but they keep getting up and they keep going. They don't give up until they learn to walk. They get frustrated, they cry, they scream, all the things that we do when we're faced with a challenge. And yet somehow we find a way through. And when we do, we're ready for the next thing. And it's always going to be like that. You cannot have the good without the bad. You can't. If everything was all good all the time, you wouldn't know that it was all good. It would just be nothing. You wouldn't grow. You wouldn't learn anything. You wouldn't see it as being good because you don't know anything else. Or if it was all bad, you you would just give up, really. You wouldn't be growing from it because what else is there? It's really, you need to have the bad so you can see the good and appreciate it. And I always struggled with this, but you need the bad, the good, so that you can appreciate the bad for what it is. It's not to cause you pain in your existence. It's to help you grow. And that's something that took me a long time to realize, is that it wasn't there to make you suffer. It was there to help you grow into the person that you're meant to be. And because we have all of these struggles constantly, not only do our bodies not understand what's going on and not know how to deal with the fact, like I said with the babies, like they'd scream and cry because they couldn't understand why they couldn't do these things. And our emotions, they don't know how to deal with these things. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to deal with it because it's something they've never faced before. So they go nuts and they wreak havoc in your head and with the rest of your body. I understand how mental illness can physically affect you as well. And it just goes into overdrive trying to work out what's going on. And it's like, I explained it to my friend this week, not long ago, but it's like in your head, you've got these people running around, okay? And these people are, say, in like an office space, and there's filing cabinets everywhere. And something happens, and it's like there's a fire in one of the filing cabinets. They know that there's a fire, and they know it's somewhere in there and that it's not good, but they don't know how to put it out. They don't know where it is, and they start panicking. They're racing around in your head trying to find something to put this fire out and something to show them where this fire is. And they just keep running around because they don't actually know what is going on. They might not even know that there's a fire. They might just be able to hear an alarm that's saying there's a problem, and they've got to try and race around, work out what the problem is, how they're going to fix it, and where the actual problem is. And until they work out how to do that, they're going to be going in panic mode and overdrive, trying to work out how to respond to this specific situation properly. And that's pretty much what happens, or I feel what happens when you're faced with a problem. You don't necessarily always know what the problem is, and even if you do, you don't know why it's making you feel the way it's making you feel. And because you don't know the reason why it's making you feel the way it's making you feel, or you don't even know what the problem is, you have no idea how to stop it or overcome it, and you have no idea where to even start. And that's when we go into the panicked overdrive of what are we supposed to do with this information? How are we possibly supposed to overcome it? We don't know how to deal with this. And you might notice that there's lots of times where the same thing keeps happening. And you feel like you've already dealt with this, but it's still coming back and it's still having that effect on you. And you don't understand it. And this is how I feel it, is that you didn't learn what you were needing to learn from it. So although you may have dealt with it before, you still don't know how to deal with it. So it's like the little men in your head, they know that it's a fire. They've had this alarm before. They know that it's a fire. But they didn't know how to put it out, or they didn't know where to find it. So they've got to go on this mad adventure to try and work it out. And I really feel like that is like, I probably sound crazy saying there's little men in my head, but it's like the only way I can sort of make sense of it in my own head, if that makes sense. Like, it's the best analogy I could think of. And I had just seen that Inside Out movie not long before I'd thought about this, but it's the best way to try and describe it, because that's sometimes what it feels like. It feels like absolute chaos in your head. Absolute chaos. I used to like to use the whole like internet browser analogy, where there's like a billion tabs open. You're on internet on the dial-up connection, you're frozen pretty much because there's too many tabs open and there's music coming from somewhere, but you have no idea where it's coming from and you can't get to it and you don't know how to find it. And it works as a good analogy too. But basically, if things keep reoccurring, it's because you haven't learned what you needed to learn from that. And there was more growing you needed to do from that particular instance. And like I said at the very beginning, I kind of went off on a rant, but every single person has things go wrong in their lives. And it might not be the same as what you're going through. You may feel like you're going through so much worse than anyone else, and that's okay. But while you may be, say, grieving the loss of a loved one, someone you're very close to, this person may be arguing with that person. And that's the worst thing that they've ever had to deal with. Whereas this, you losing someone you're close to, is the worst thing. And you might hear them complaining about arguing with their, say, father. And you just lost your father. And you may be feeling like, I would give absolutely anything to be able to argue with my father one more time, just so that I could hear his voice. And that's okay, but you do have to remember that that is the worst thing that they've had to deal with, so it's all relative. So if that's the worst thing they've had to deal with, then they're probably going through very similar struggles emotionally and mentally that you were going through, that they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with the emotions that are associated with it. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to them, and they don't know how they're going to move forward. So you need to remember that just because something doesn't seem as bad as what you are going through does not mean it is the most difficult thing that that person is going through. And the thing is, there's so many people out there that every person you pass on the street is going through something. Every single person. You never know. And that's why it's important to be such a kind person and to be understanding and try to be the best person that you possibly can be, because you don't know what your effect is going to have on somebody else. If they're at the very edge of their tether, where they have been dealing with something for so long and they're still not making sense of it, just a simple smile from a stranger as they're walking past might make an entire difference to their whole outlook. Or if you scowl at them and give them a look like they ain't shit, then that might change their perspective in the negative way. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you're going through. We're all going through things, and it is completely okay, because everyone else is going through something as well. They understand the feelings that you may be feeling, that things are tough, that bad things always happen, that you don't know where to go. You don't know where to go to from here. How are you ever going to get over this thing? Because it seems all consuming. Or it seems like one bad thing after another, after another, after another, after another keep happening, and you don't want it to keep happening. But there's other people out there that are going through struggles, that are understanding the chaos that is going through your mind, and that it is okay that you are struggling, because that means that you are growing and that you are going to overcome this challenge and the next and the next, because they are not there to cause you pain and suffering. It is there to help you grow as a human being and experience the good things in life as well. And I feel like I kind of went on a big ramble with that, and I'm not entirely sure what else to say on it. I think I could go on for hours about this because mental health is such an important thing to me because, like I said, I've had it from mental illnesses from a very young age, and a lot of people very close to me throughout life have had mental illnesses and struggle to this day with them. So it is something that I feel very passionate about. I don't feel like it's something that once a year you make a post about mental illness, or once a year you ask your friend if they're okay. It needs to be something that it becomes a regular part of conversation. That when you ask a friend how they're doing, they tell you the truth because they don't feel like it's not what you want to hear. That your friends and families know that you can come to them with the truth no matter how hard it is, and that you do not consider them a burden, that you do not consider them to be just piling on all their problems on you, that they know that they can come to you with anything and you will be nothing but supportive and give them love and what they need in that time. And I did write a blog post about this. I probably said things in it that I haven't mentioned in here. There's probably things in here that I didn't mention in there. This was more of like a just what came to mind sort of ramble. Whereas my blog post, I took some time thinking about it and making sure the words that came out of my brain actually made sense. So if you wanted to, you can go check that out. I'll leave the link in the description. And also, if you did enjoy listening to this, mental health isn't always the most uplifting thing to listen to or anything like that, but I just want to create awareness and let people know that it's not a bad thing to be feeling bad, that it's okay to not be okay. And I just wanted to share the state of mind that I've come to recently, and it has actually helped me through a lot of the more recent challenges that I've been faced with. And I hope that anyone who sees this, it can help them change their state of mind and maybe help them with dealing whatever challenges they're dealing with at the moment. And yeah, so if you did like it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if this is something that you have been thinking about, or if it's gotten you thinking about the way you think about things, or any suggestions on what you'd like to see more about, if you'd like to see more mental health and all that sort of stuff, some of my stories, let me know and I'll be sure to read them and do my best to provide you guys with that. And also don't forget to subscribe, press that button and turn on the notifications so that you never miss a video from me. I post wellness videos on Wednesdays and storytime videos on Sundays. So make sure you check them out because the story times are my paranormal experiences along with just random stories from my childhood or my life. And wellness videos, I'm going to do my best to provide awareness for mental and chronic illnesses. I hope you have a great afternoon or night whenever you're watching this. Bye!